You ever just want the elevator to close so no one talks to you, and instead, someone nearly dies? Jason had 3 minutes to get to his shift. He was running on gas station coffee and the promise of overtime. The elevator doors were closing when a guy in a suit reached through with one hand. Jason hit the door open button. The man stepped in, nodded once, and then dropped to the floor like the ground had given out beneath him. Quick question, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. And hey, if this story makes you clench your jaw, smile, or whisper, "No way, that's Jason Statham," hit that subscribe button. Watch till the end because what happens next might change how you see quiet men forever. Jason knelt down fast. The man was unconscious, no warning, no phone in hand. Just flat on the elevator floor, sweating through a $1,000 shirt. Jason didn't know who he was yet, but the way he collapsed, that wasn't random, and Jason, he didn't freeze. Jason didn't even want to be in that building. He was only there to drop off a vendor badge and maybe beg for a last-minute contract extension before heading to his night shift. He hadn't shaved, hadn't slept, and was wearing the same jeans he'd worn to fix his neighbor's sink at 2 a.m. The only thing he had going for him was the fact that no one in a downtown high-rise ever made eye contact with the maintenance guy. He hit the elevator button, kept his head down. The lobby was polished like a mirror, and the lighting was so white it made his coffee look like motor oil. He stepped in just as the doors were closing. Then, just before they sealed shut, a hand reached in. The doors reopened. A man in a suit stepped in. Trim, tailored, late 40s. AirPods in, briefcase in hand. He nodded once at Jason without looking. Typical upper-floor energy, like he was acknowledging a ghost. Then he stumbled. Jason looked up just in time to catch the briefcase. The man collapsed against the back wall of the elevator, slid down, and hit the floor hard. His head missed the railing by an inch. The briefcase popped open, spilling papers that didn't look like they belonged to anyone with a boss. Jason dropped to his knees. "Hey, sir." No response. He tapped the man's cheek, checked his breathing. It was shallow, too shallow. Jason's hands moved on instinct muscle memory from a CPR training course taken 8 years ago at a community center when Leo was a baby. One hand on the chest, count compressions, keep the rhythm, hope the lungs remember what to do, 30 compressions, 2 breaths, repeat. The elevator hummed quietly, still rising. Jason hit the emergency stop with his elbow, floor 17. He kept going. On the 4th round, the man coughed. Weak, wet, then again harder. His eyes fluttered open like blinds half stuck. Jason sat back, breathing hard. "You okay?" he asked. The man blinked, tried to speak but couldn't. Jason grabbed the emergency phone. It connected to a bored voice. "Security. There's a medical emergency. 17th floor elevator. Man just collapsed." The voice perked up. "Sir, are you?" "I'm fine." "He's not. Send someone now." Jason hung up and turned back. The man was conscious but weak, pale. He pointed to his jacket pocket. Jason reached in and pulled out a small metal container, pills, fast-acting nitrate. Jason placed one under his tongue. The man nodded barely. They stayed like that in silence. 2 minutes later, the elevator jolted and started moving again. When it opened on the lobby, paramedics were already there. Jason stepped back as they rushed in. They loaded the man onto a gurney, and one EMT turned to Jason. "You the one who performed CPR?" "Yeah, probably saved his life." Jason rubbed his forehead. "I just reacted. That's usually how the good ones do it." The man on the gurney reached for Jason's hand. He squeezed it once, whispered something. Jason leaned in. "Don't let them. Bury the file." Then his hand dropped. Jason stood there as the doors closed and the paramedics wheeled him away. He realized then he was still holding the man's briefcase. Back inside the elevator, he looked around, then quickly picked up the scattered papers and shoved them in. The briefcase locked automatically with a click. He held it like it was a bomb. By the time he stepped out into the parking garage, he already knew he was going to be late to his night shift. Again, he called his supervisor. Voicemail. left a message, something vague about traffic and a medical emergency. It wasn't a lie, but it wouldn't save his job either. Jason tossed the briefcase into the passenger seat of his beat-up sedan and sat for a minute. His reflection in the rearview mirror looked worse than he felt, and he felt like hell. He drove home with the briefcase unopened. Leo was asleep on the couch, curled up under a blanket that didn't quite reach his feet. The TV was still playing some old cartoon rerun. Jason turned it off and pulled the blanket up to cover Leo's legs. He placed the briefcase on the kitchen table and stared at it like it might explode. He tried to ignore it, tried to wash dishes, feed the cat, answer a text from his sister, but his eyes kept returning to the table. Eventually he gave in. It clicked open with a soft hiss. Inside, contracts, legal documents, internal memos, all with the same letterhead, Altascore Holdings. Jason didn't know the name, but the numbers on those papers were big, too big. Something about mergers, assets, shell companies. It didn't read like corporate fluff. It read like someone trying to hide something. Then he found the envelope, unmarked. He opened it. Inside was a USB drive and a sticky note with a password scribbled in block letters. Jason plugged it into his old laptop, heart racing. A folder opened, video files, spreadsheets, audio logs. He clicked one at random, a boardroom meeting. A voice he recognized, the man from the elevator. "We bury it, no public trail, I don't care who it hurts." Another voice. "But the environmental report," I said, "bury it." Jason paused the video. He sat back. So this was what the man meant. Don't let them bury the file. The man wasn't just a CEO, he was a guilty one, a dying one. And maybe a man trying to do the right thing on his way out. Jason closed the laptop, pulled the USB, put it back in the envelope. He didn't sleep much that night. He kept hearing the voice. Don't let them bury the file. The next morning, he called the hospital. Asked if the man, he gave no name, had made it through. He was told politely that information was not being disclosed at this time. Jason hung up. An hour later, he noticed a car parked across the street, not a neighbor's. Windows too tinted, engine too quiet. He didn't mention it to Leo. Just packed his lunch, dropped him off at school, and made a mental note to change up their routine. When he got back, the car was gone, but someone had left a card in the door. Altascore Legal Affairs. Jason flipped it over. "We'd like to recover Mr. Crane's property. Please call us." No number, no name. Jason stood there, card in hand, door half open, wondering how long he had before someone stopped asking nicely. He didn't throw the card away. He didn't call either. He just sat at the kitchen table with the briefcase in front of him, Leo's crayons scattered beside it. And he thought, if I keep this, if I move forward, then I better be ready for whatever comes next. Jason didn't go to work the next day. He didn't call in either. The shift manager didn't even bother texting. By now, they both knew where it was headed. Jason had blown through too many second chances, and no one was going to believe. The CEO passed out in my arms counted as a valid excuse. He made eggs for Leo, dropped him off early at school, then came back to a house that felt like it was waiting for something to break. The briefcase sat in the center of the table like it owned the room. Jason didn't open it again. Not yet. Instead, he pulled the blinds halfway shut, unplugged his laptop from the wall just in case, and started searching for the name, Altascore Holdings. The results were clinical. Real estate, infrastructure, logistics, the kind of company that called itself clean but buried bodies in paperwork. A few legal articles. One PR scandal from 4 years back quickly settled. No CEO name attached. Jason checked the card again. Still no contact info. Just a company name and the words "recover Mr. Crane's property." That was the first time he realized he'd never been told the man's name. Not by the paramedics, not by security, not by anyone official. Just that one whispered phrase, "Don't let them bury the file." Jason stepped outside. No strange cars today. The street looked normal, but something in the air didn't. He walked down the block, turned a few corners. tossed the card in a public trash can, and kept going like he didn't exist. When he got home, the front door was locked, but the carpet inside was scuffed near the hinge. Jason froze. He knew that scuff. He'd made the same mark years ago after fixing the lock. He stepped inside slowly. Quietly. The briefcase was gone. Jason's stomach dropped. He moved through the house. Nothing else touched. Not the TV, not Leo's backpack, not the drawer with the spare cash, just the case, and the envelope with the USB still there. Inside the freezer, hidden behind a bag of peas, Jason grabbed it, heart racing. They had keys. Or they picked the lock. Either way, it meant one thing. They knew exactly where to go. He pulled out his phone, no messages. But one missed call, no ID. He texted Leo's teacher. "Let me know if anyone else tries to pick him up today." She replied instantly. Why? Jason just wrote, just in case. Then he grabbed his jacket and the USB and left. He didn't know where he was going until he got there, the library, old building. Free Wi-Fi. No cameras. He sat in the farthest corner behind a column and plugged the drive into a public terminal. The files were still there. He opened a folder labeled Astra Blacksite Financials, spreadsheets, internal memos, off-book transactions, shell companies, a payment trail connecting Altascore to what looked like a privatized detention facility in another country. Jason's chest tightened. He clicked a file labeled Clearance Internal Eyes Only. A video played. Boardroom, 6 men, 1 woman, no faces shown, all voices altered. But the logo on the wall was unmistakable, Altascore. A voice said, "We dump the site, destroy backups. If Crane flips, we bury him with the project." Another voice, "He already made a copy, he sent it." A third, "To who?" The file cut out. Jason pulled the USB and looked around. No one watching. No one close. But he knew now why someone wanted it back. It wasn't about the briefcase or the man. It was about the fact that he, Jason Shaw, was now holding something that people in suits and limos and government ties would kill for. He left the library through the back entrance and took 3 buses home, switching seats, changing routes. Every mirror made him flinch. When he finally stepped inside his house, it was dark, too dark. He turned on the light. Dean was sitting at his table. Jason froze. Dean was younger than he expected, mid-30s, tactical haircut, calm. "Where's Leo?" Jason asked, voice low. Dean raised his hands. "At school, safe." "I didn't touch him." Jason didn't relax. Dean said, "My name's not important, but I work with people who tried to protect Crane." "Crane," Jason repeated. "So that's his name." "Was," Dean said. Jason's heart dropped. "He's dead," Dean nodded once. "Heart failure, not natural, not clean." Jason looked down. "He gave me something." "I know," Dean said. "That's why I'm here." Jason shook his head. "I'm not giving it up." Dean leaned forward. "I'm not here to take it. I'm here to make sure you don't die holding it." Jason narrowed his eyes. "Why me?" "Because Crane didn't trust anyone inside. He needed someone invisible, and he picked you. That means something." Jason didn't answer. Dean stood. "They're not going to stop looking." Jason asked, "Then what do I do?" Dean reached into his pocket and pulled out a new USB. "You give me the original. I clone it. You keep one. I take the other to someone who can go public with it without getting you killed." Jason didn't move. Dean added, "You can keep Leo out of it, but only if you move now." Jason held out the drive. "Make it fast." Dean plugged both into a small encrypted box. A light blinked red, then green. It took less than 2 minutes. He handed the original back. "Hide it somewhere even you forget." Jason took it. Dean said, "They'll come again. Don't answer the door unless you know who it is. And don't go anywhere without a second exit." Jason nodded slowly. "And you?" Dean smiled faintly. "They already think I'm dead." Then he left. That night, Jason packed a go-bag. Leo asked, "Are we going on a trip?" Jason knelt beside him. "Not yet, but maybe." Leo nodded. "Will there be cereal?" Jason laughed once. "Always." He didn't sleep that night. Just sat by the door, watching the street, waiting for the next thing that would come. Jason didn't leave the house for 2 days. He kept the curtains drawn and the doors bolted, the burner phone charged and Leo close. Every sound made him flinch, a dog barking, a garbage can tipping in the wind, footsteps too heavy on the sidewalk. Even Leo noticed. "Are you mad at the world?" he asked once, eating cereal on the couch. Jason almost laughed. Not mad, just watching it closely. Leo thought about that for a second, then nodded and said, "That makes sense," like it was the most obvious answer in the world. The clone drive sat wrapped in 2 socks inside a small Tupperware container in the freezer. The original. Jason didn't even keep it in the house anymore. He tucked it into the hollow wall behind the water heater in the apartment's basement laundry room, the place no one ever cleaned and the landlord never checked. On the third morning, the doorbell rang. Jason froze. He checked the peephole. Mailman, real one, same guy as always, just a package. Jason opened the door with his foot braced behind it. The mailman smiled. "This one doesn't have a name, but it's addressed to your unit. Must be a gift or something." Jason took it. "Thanks." He closed the door and set the box on the table. No markings, no return address, but taped to the side was a sticky note. "It's not over." Jason opened the box. Inside, a burner phone, already on, already unlocked, no contacts, just one message in the inbox. "You have 3 days." Then the window closes. No name, no details. Jason stared at the message until the screen dimmed, then turned the phone off and stuffed it in a drawer. When Leo got home from school, Jason was quiet. "You okay?" Leo asked. Jason nodded. "Yeah." "You ever heard of people who do the right thing and still get punished for it?" Leo blinked. "Like superheroes?" "Yeah, kinda," Leo shrugged. "They still do it, though." Jason sat with that for a while. That night he called Dean. First ring, second, then voicemail. He didn't leave a message. But the next morning, Dean knocked. Jason opened the door. "They sent something." Dean stepped in. "I know. You give them the copy yet?" "I'm about to." Jason looked at him hard. "So what's the delay?" Dean closed the door. "They want a meeting." Jason froze. "With who?" "You." Jason laughed once. "Absolutely not." Dean didn't smile. "They said it's non-negotiable." "Everything's negotiable." "Not with these people." Jason shook his head. "I'm not handing them anything." Dean nodded. "I didn't say you should." Jason sat down. "What do they want from me?" Dean paused. "They want to offer you silence." Jason frowned. "What does that mean?" "They'll offer you a payout, an NDA, protection, a new identity if you want it, all in exchange for one thing." Jason said it before he even thought about it. "The drive." Dean nodded once. Jason leaned back in the chair. "How long have you known this was coming?" "Since the moment Crane gave it to you." Jason rubbed his face. "So what's the play?" Dean sat across from him. "We give them a meeting, in public, your terms, no USB, no files. Just you sitting across from the people who are scared of what you might do." Jason raised an eyebrow. "And if I don't show, they'll assume you already leaked it, which might be worse." Jason didn't answer. Dean added, "You're not alone in this, but you do have to stand in it." Jason looked over at Leo, asleep on the couch with a blanket draped over his head like a tent. "Where?" Dean slid a folded napkin across the table. "A time and a location." Jason didn't touch it. Dean stood. "Think about it." Then he left. Jason didn't move for a long time. He picked up the napkin later, stared at it, memorized the time, and burned it in the sink. 2 days later, he sat at a small diner across from 2 men in suits. One was quiet, the other did the talking. "You're a mechanic, right?" "Sometimes," Jason said. "You got a kid?" "I do." "You've had a rough few years." Jason didn't answer. The man smiled politely. "We're not here to threaten you." "That's good. I don't respond well to that." The man nodded. "We're here to offer you peace, a way out, money, security, all of it." Jason sipped his coffee. "In exchange for what?" The man leaned in. "For forgetting what you saw, for giving back what doesn't belong to you." Jason smiled faintly. "What if I already sent it to someone?" The man's smile didn't move. "Then this meeting never happened." Jason looked at the second man, still silent, still watching. "I don't want your money," Jason said. "We thought you might say that." Jason stood. The man added, "You're putting your son at risk." Jason stopped, then looked over his shoulder. "If anything happens to him," Jason said slowly, "I won't bury the file. I'll send it to every outlet on the internet, printed copies included, and I'll make sure your names are on the envelope." The man's smile cracked. Jason walked out. He didn't go home right away. Took the long way. Bought Leo a sandwich from his favorite spot. Picked him up from school early. Drove 3 towns over and checked into a motel under a fake name Dean had set up weeks ago. That night he didn't sleep, but he did check his phone. One message from Dean. "It's done. They won't come again." Jason stared at the screen, then deleted the message. Jason didn't trust done. He read the message 3 times. Then he turned the burner phone off and pulled the motel room curtains an inch tighter. Leo was already asleep, curled against one side of the bed, clutching his stuffed robot like it could protect both of them. Jason sat in the room's single chair, one hand on the mini fridge, the other on the duffel bag under his foot. It still didn't feel over. In the morning, Leo stirred first, sat up slow, blinking at the TV screen that never got turned on. "Are we going home today?" he asked. Jason hesitated. "Soon." Leo nodded like that was enough. They drove to the diner where Dean had left him a paper napkin and bad news. Jason parked around back, sat in the car for almost 10 minutes before going inside. He didn't see Dean, didn't expect to. He left the original USB drive under the table taped to the bottom edge, the same way he used to hide notes in middle school. The cloned version stayed in his sock, wrapped tight in foil. On the way out, he spotted a woman sitting at the counter. Black blazer, thin frame, too still. She didn't look up, but Jason knew. They were still watching. He kept walking. 3 days passed. No messages. No knocks. No dark sedans. Leo went back to school. Jason stayed home, cleaned the house like it could erase tension. He opened the briefcase one last time, shredded every document that didn't matter. The only thing he kept was Crane's sticky note, still faintly creased where he folded it in half the night he found it. "Don't let them bury the file." On Saturday morning, an envelope arrived in the mail. No return address, same handwriting. Inside was a check. Jason stared at it for a full minute. The amount had too many zeros, no note, just the check. He didn't tell Leo, he didn't cash it either. That night, Dean called. Jason picked up before the first ring finished. "You disappeared," Jason said. Dean's voice was flat. "I had to close the loop." "And is it closed?" "For now." Jason exhaled. Dean added, "You did good. I didn't do anything. You stayed alive, that counts." Jason looked out the window. Was that really it, all this for one file? "No," Dean said. "It was what the file proved, and who it scared." Jason asked, "And now what?" "Now you get to choose what kind of man you want to be with the truth." The line went dead. Jason stared at the screen, then tossed the phone in the drawer with the others. That Sunday, Leo got a letter in the mail. It was addressed to Mr. L. Shaw. Jason opened it before he could. Inside, a drawing, crayon, simple, a stick figure with a cape and a kid holding his hand. On the back, one sentence: "You did more than most grown men ever would." No signature. Leo looked at it and smiled. "Did I draw this?" Jason shook his head. "Someone drew it for you." Leo traced the cape with one finger. "It looks like you." Jason didn't reply. The next morning, Jason made a decision. He packed up the briefcase and every trace of the event, the USB, the foil wrapper, the burned-out phones, into a single box. Then he drove 2 hours north to a storage unit with no cameras and a code only he knew. He didn't label the box. He just locked it in a metal drawer and walked away. That night, he cooked dinner like it was any other Monday. Pasta, store-bought garlic bread. Leo told him about a kid who brought a frog to school in his backpack. Jason laughed, the real kind, the kind that felt like breathing. Then the power cut out, all at once. Jason moved fast. Flashlight from the drawer. Leo into the hallway. It was only their building. No other outages on the block. Jason checked the fuse box. Nothing tripped. He pulled back the curtain slowly. A man stood in the courtyard, tall, hoodie, still. Jason opened the door partway. "Can I help you?" The man didn't answer. Jason stepped out, kept one hand behind his back on the flashlight. "You lost." Still nothing. Jason moved closer. The man finally spoke. "He told me you'd be cautious." Jason froze. "Who?" "Crane." Jason's heart jumped. "He said if anything happened to him, I'd know where to go." Jason looked him over. "Who are you?" "I worked for him, not in the suits, underneath. I did things that made the suits rich." Jason's voice dropped. "Why are you here?" The man pulled something from his pocket, an ID badge. Jason recognized the logo instantly. "Altascore." "I kept copies too," he said, "and I think it's time we use them." Jason didn't speak. The man added, "We can take them apart slowly, publicly." Jason looked back at the apartment. Leo was still inside. "I have a son," he said. The man nodded. "So did I." They stood there in the dark. Then Jason said, "Meet me tomorrow, one town over, back lot of the train station. I'll think about it." The man nodded and left. Jason went back inside and locked every bolt. Leo was on the couch. "Was it the power guy?" he asked. Jason smiled. "Something like that." Leo yawned. "Do we still have cereal?" Jason checked the cabinet. "Yeah, enough for a week." Leo nodded, satisfied, and turned the TV back on. Jason sat beside him, arm around his shoulder. He didn't know if he'd meet the man tomorrow. But he knew one thing: he wasn't invisible anymore. And maybe that was the point.